final. Yay! The final example we have here for chapter 2 is keyboard input. This is really the way that we can create an interaction between the code that we generate and a user someplace. So up here at the very top, let me suggest that you should notice something new. We have to have a new keyword here, and that is import. And the thing that we need to import is java.util.scanner. And this will just become second nature to you without the import of the scanner. Java will not listen for keyboard or mouse input. So what that's going to mean is you as a user cannot interact with Java unless we have, it's called a scanner. There's a weird ancient 1990s reason for that. Just get used to it, called scanner. So here inside of my main class, so that here again, and here inside of my main method, remember classes begin with capital M's, capitals, it's not capitals, M's. Here we have two strings that we're going to declare. I declare a first name and I declare a last name, and they are going to be of type string. So this line here, you will essentially just memorize. Scanner keyboard. So what this is saying is we're going to create a scanner object, and that object is going to be called keyboard. Now, this is an assignment, and it works exactly the same way like other assignments we have seen. It's just instead of primitive data type, so instead of assigning, 5 plus 5 to an integer, what we're saying is when you get a new something from the system, from the keyboard, save it here into keyboard. Now we're going to see how that works in just a couple of lines. So here is our very first foray into interacting with the user. I'm going to output what is your first name. Now you'll notice I'm just doing it as a print instead of a print line because I want the user to answer in the same line. And if you look over here in my output window, what is your first name? And right there at the end of that line, it's waiting for the user. This is good user-facing design. What this is going to do is make it clear to the user, oh, you mean I'm supposed to put something in here. Whereas if I have the cursor waiting for them here on the second line, that might not be as clear. So I'm going to hopefully someday correctly type Eric into here. And before I hit enter, this is what's going to happen. Is Java is bored to tears waiting for me to do something over there on the right-hand side. Remember, even an ancient low-powered, so not, like a Core i9 with hyper-threading or a Threadripper AMD. Don't even think about things like that. Think about like a 1994 Pentium 486 machine, right? Ancient. Even that ancient machine is bored to tears waiting for you bags of meat to come around and type something in here. So what we're saying is wait. So the system here is going to wait. And whenever it is that keyboard.nextLine, remember some of these keyboard or the keywords rather, next line is when you are getting a string. Next double is when you're getting a double. Next int, you get the idea. Int, next char, next boolean, next so on and so forth. So line number 16 here is saying the following. Wait for the keyboard and wait for somebody to hit enter on the keyboard. So boom, I'm hitting enter. What's going to happen then is whatever was in the buffer, so whatever I typed here, is going to be stored here into first name. So we're going to see this in just a second. We're going to see this again. So here on line 19, I'm going to ask for a last name. I have one new additional wrinkle in here for you. I don't want to make this a print line because I want the user to enter their name right here on the same line like I did the last time, I have an escape character here. That \n is an escape character. There's a table of these all the way back in chapter 1. \n means new line, and that's the line you see right here. If I say \t, that's a tab. If I say \r, the cursor would actually be waiting for us at the very, very front of this line. There's a host of them that it pays to know, but the one you're going to use the most, undoubtedly, is that \n you see right there. So then we've got the same thing here. Keyboard dot next line, because keyboard dot is going to tell Java what kind of variable you're looking for. Next line says it's a string. So here I will type in wolf, and when I hit enter, what happens is that line from the buffer, so everything after this time that I hit enter and everything until this time that I hit enter is stored into last name. Now, if we were to, yes, let's fork. If we were to continue and do the next most reasonable thing here, we would have a system.out.println. And in that print line, I would say something like welcome, and then first name, and then I forgot. What did I forget in between these two here? I forgot the plus operator. First name plus, and then actually I would need the space. So this piece right here is making sure that Eric Wolf is not one word, that in fact it's two. So we plus here and then last name. So all in all, we're going to output on a line. We're going to say welcome, and then we're going to concatenate. That's what the plus operator does. We're going to add first name. We're going to concatenate it again. We're going to add a space. We're going to concatenate it again, and we're going to add last name. So over here in my run window, we'll do exactly the same thing. We've got Eric, it's incorrectly spelled, but what are you going to do? And we've got last name, and then boom, we've got welcome Eric Wolf. Now, could we change this? I argue we could make this a little bit more readable. I'm going to come back up here to line 19, and I'm going to remove that new line character. And instead, I'm going to put that here on line 23, because I don't want necessarily to have first name orphaned from last name by that extra space inside of there. So instead, I've got that added down here. So I'm going to add my first name incorrectly. There's my last name. And then we get our space and welcome Eric Wolf. Now, while we're making things look better, what about this space right here? That's kind of, can we call it not optimal? So instead, right here, before my first output, before the first time I come over here to the output window and do something for the user, I'm going to go ahead and give me 3 spaces, 3 extra lines right in between the end of my, the Java output that just comes from, simply outputting the virtual machine into the output window there. Now what you'll see is I have this nice gap up here on the top. And this is good user-facing design. Even something just as minimal as adding those spaces. So we'll say Eric, we'll say Wolf, and here we go, welcome Eric Wolf. This looks an awful lot better than it did when we started out, when we didn't have all of these extra lines, when we didn't have all of these extra spaces, when everything was just run together up here. That's not great design. Even something as simple as adding a couple there, adding a little bit of a space here, those little things that you do as a developer pay huge dividends when it comes to how it is that the user is going to interact with your code. So as we go through, we're going to focus alongside with the actual technical things like the escape sequence for \n. We're going to look at things like, next line versus next int. Clearly, we need all of those. But to be truly successful, you need little things like this too that really help the user draw their eye to the important parts so that they spend more time interacting with your program and spend less time frustrated with your program.